Hello, everybody, and welcome to Week 6. The second half of the UFL season is underway here soon. We got 4 games beginning with a Thursday night one, so let's waste no more time and dive right into these. We begin Thursday night with what the league is calling the Derby Bowl. It's St. Louis Battlehawks at 3.5-point favorites, traveling to the Louisville Kings as a way for the league to kind of ceremoniously kick off the Kentucky Derby because co-owner Mike Rapoli is also a big horse racing guy. So we have the Derby Bowl. I do feel like this game is going to be a bit interesting, especially with how these teams have played the past few weeks. St. Louis still with the inconsistentness that they've had throughout some parts of the season. Last week against Orlando, they had a fantastic first half of play and then a not so stellar second half. So in that second half, seemingly everything just went wrong for the Battlehawks. So they're going to have a pretty tough one against Louisville, who over the past 2 weeks have looked like a pretty solid team. An overtime win against Houston 2 weeks back, and then a very nice road win against Dallas last week. That performance last week for Louisville with Chandler Rogers under center was a really surprisingly good showing. The ground game finally got their feet under them with a really solid game against that Dallas run defense. Chandler Rogers, he didn't turn the ball over. He played fine in that game. Was just doing what he can to make sure that he didn't lose the game for the Kings. And the defense was the star of the show with 4 interceptions against Austin Reed, 2 of them being pick sixes. This game is going to be in Louisville. I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. Even with the Battlehawks being 3.5-point favorites, seeing consistencies that they've had this season kind of making me go against them. I'm picking the Louisville Kings to win this game. I just really like the hot hand that they've been on the past 2 weeks with 2 very nice road wins. Now getting back to their home stadium in Louisville, I'm expecting them to play pretty well. They've been a pretty good home team this year as well. So with Chandler Rogers back under center, another week of prep for him as the starter, and a defense that played as well as it did last week, I'm going to keep riding with the Louisville Kings, a team that at the beginning of the season I was very high on, and I'm going to be riding with them once again in this one. Friday night sees a rematch as the Houston Gamblers are traveling to Columbus to take on the Aviators, with Columbus being 5.5-point favorites in this game. Of the games from last week's Week 5 slate, this game was probably the least exciting of the bunch, but it was still a game that came down to the very end, and it ended with Jalen McClellan fumbling inside the red zone. So this Houston defense was on full display in that game, even with it being only a 3-point second half across both teams. The defenses were on display, especially Houston's defense making some very key plays late. Columbus is a team that has constantly shot themselves in the foot this season, and last week was no different, leaving 4 points off the board, McClellan having a fumble late, and all around just the offense not really able to do a whole lot outside of the second quarter of that one. But at the end of the day, it was still a game that Columbus definitely could have and arguably should have won, as their defense was also playing really damn well in that game after the opening 2 drives for Houston. And all around, again, it was a defensive mastermind game from both sides. Neither ground game could get much going, neither passing game could get a whole lot going. So I am expecting this game to be similar in the fact that it's going to come down to the final 2 minutes and just who is going to be able to come out on top in this one. I am going to lean the Columbus Aviators for this game. And there's one big reason as to why, and that is Houston's track record on the road this season. They have been a very bad road team in this year. Most of their tight games and their wins so far have come at home. But it's a case where when they're on the road, they have not been a great team. And yes, those 2 road opponents so far have been Dallas and DC. But still, I want to see them be a bit better on the road before I can pick them in a road matchup. So, as pretty fitting with the gambler's name, I'm going to go with the house on this one in Columbus. The lone game on Saturday, it is the Dallas Renegades traveling to the DC Defenders. DC is only 3-point favorites in this one, and I mentioned this during streams during the Week 5 games, but this game could very easily be a comedy show in just terms of what the result might end up being in this one. The past 2 weeks for Dallas have not been great. They're on a 2-game losing skid, and a lot of it has been because of the ground game. They gave up a season-best performance to the Louisville Kings ground game last week. They gave up an 18-play drive with 17 run plays against Columbus, which was the game's sealing drive 2 weeks ago, and now they're going against the best running offense in the league in the DC Defenders that are led by Deion Jackson, Abram Smith, and Xavier Valladay. I am expecting Dallas to struggle in this game. It does not help the fact that this game is in DC, and the Defenders are a really damn good team at home. Fittingly with the name, they can defend home turf pretty damn well. Even with that, we have seen Jordan Ta'amu this season really be able to pass the ball to an efficient clip if need be, and DC as a whole is looking like a very well-rounded and a very tough team to beat. Meanwhile, this Dallas offense, the past really 3 weeks, have been finding themselves in a bit of a tough spot here ever since Columbus stepped into their building. And a lot of it is just the fact that Columbus and Louisville so far have been the two main teams that have been able to contain Tyler Vaughns and put pressure on Austin Reed. Well, what other team can really do a good job of containing the top end receiver and put pressure on the quarterback? It is the DC defenders, who have the best defense in the league, especially with that pass rush being as good as it is, and the secondary being as good as he is, with Garyon Conley having a good season up to this point as well. So, to no one's surprise, I'm going to pick DC to win this game. I'm expecting Deion Jackson to have a monster every game. Really, that DC ground game as a whole to have a monster game. I am expecting that secondary of DC to have a massive impact in this one, with Garyon Conley and Bryce Thompson being the main two involved. Would not be surprised if Sam Kidd as well has a big game, a big player too in this one, as well as Gabriel Taylor. All around, this is a DC team that is built to win the championship, and Dallas still has some stuff to figure out in terms of they want to be that championship contending team that it felt like they could have been after 2 weeks. But when they're going against a big dog, I'm going to pick DC to come out on top. The final game of the week on Sunday, it is the Birmingham Stallions traveling to the Orlando Storm. The Storm are 6-point favorites in this one, and it's a bit of a revenge game for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He was the Storm backup quarterback through the first month of the season. After the Storm's Week 4 win against Birmingham, he was traded to the Stallions. And last week, he looked pretty okay against DC. Wasn't the greatest of showings, but for someone that had a very short week of preparation with a new team, it was still a solid one that you can build off of. That Birmingham defense, on the other hand, was not really what you wanted to see out of them. They've been having a pretty rough year so far through the first half of the season. But they still find themselves in a spot against an Orlando team that 2 weeks ago they held to 16 points. On the other end, this Orlando defense held this Birmingham offense to a shutout 2 weeks ago. It was the first shutout in UFL history. And I'm not going to expect the same type of result in this one. I do think Birmingham is going to score in this game, but I do expect the overall outcome to be pretty similar. I do have the Orlando Storm winning this one. They're looking to bounce back after their first loss of the season last week against St. Louis, and I think they're going to bounce back pretty damn well. Anthony Beck is someone that doesn't really tend to lose back-to-back games all too often, though he has done it. It is still not something he does all too often. Again, he already prepped well for this Birmingham team once. I'm going to expect him to be able to do it again a second time, as Orlando has been one of those teams that can definitely have that better preparation in the second matchup of games this season. So all around, I'm going to pick Jack Plummer and the Orlando Storm to get a nice bounce back win. So there you have it, my complete thoughts on week 6 of the UFL season. We're entering the second half of the season. The playoff pushes are starting here soon. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, I'll be live for all of these games over the weekend, so stick around. It'll be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one.